Hello. Ok. Nay là 14 tháng 8 2024. Mình đang nhớ buổi trước là mình đã xem hết Lex rồi. Nhưng mà xem thấy hơi nhiều thông tin quá, cho nên là vẫn còn một đoạn nữa. Nên hôm nay mình sẽ xem nốt. Tính đến bây giờ thì mình xem được cái podcast này là 8 tiếng 37 phút. Thì mình xem được 7 tiếng 49 phút rồi. Còn khoảng 47 phút. Thì hôm nay sẽ xem nốt cái đấy rồi sẽ xem 1 đến 2 clip nữa. Rồi, bắt đầu luôn đi. Tiếp theo là đến phần web grid.
You selected 89,000 targets in WebGrid. Can you explain this game? So WebGrid. I saw a presentation where Bliss said by March you selected 89,000 targets in WebGrid. Can you explain this game? What is WebGrid, and what does it take to be a world-class performer in WebGrid as you continue to break world records?
Yeah.
It's like a gold medalist talk. Well,
Yeah, I'd like to think I'm in calibration 40 or 45 minutes. And I don't mind. Like I said, they always feel really bad, but if it's going to get me a model that can break these records on WebGrid, I'll stay in it for flipping 2 hours.
Let's talk business. So WebGrid. I saw a presentation where Bliss said by March you selected 89,000 targets in WebGrid. Can you explain this game? What is WebGrid, and what does it take to be a world-class performer in WebGrid as you continue to break world records?
Yeah.
It's like a gold medalist talk. Well,
yeah, I'd like to thank exactly. Everyone who's helped me get here, my coaches, my parents, for driving me to practice every day at 5 a.m. I'd like to thank God, and just overall my dedication to my craft.
The interviews with athletes are always like that exact. Yeah. It's like that template. So WebGrid is a grid cells.
It's literally just a grid. They can make it as big or small as you can make a grid. A single box on that grid will light up and you go and click it. And it is a way for them to benchmark how good a BCI is. So it's, pretty straightforward. You just click targets.
Only one blue cell appears and you're supposed to move the mouse to there and click on it.
So I like playing on bigger grids because the bigger the grid, the more BPS, it's bits per second, that you get every time you click one. So I'll play on a 35 by 35 grid, and then one of those little squares, cell, call it target, whatever, will light up, and you move the cursor there and you click it, and then you do that forever.
And you've been able to achieve at first 8 bits per second, and you recently broke that.
Yeah, I'm at 8.5 right now. I would have beaten that literally the day before I came to Austin, but I had a 5-second lag right at the end, and I just had to wait until the latency calmed down, and then I kept clicking, but I was at 8.01 and then 5 seconds of lag, and then the next 3 targets I clicked all stayed at 8.01. So if I would have been able to click during that time of lag, I probably would have hit, I might have hit 9. So I'm there. I'm really close. And then this whole Austin trip has really gotten in the way of my WebGrid playing ability.
Frustrating.
Yeah.
So that's all you're thinking about right now?
Yeah, I know. I want to do better.
At 9.
I want to do better. I want to hit 9. I know 9 is very, very achievable. I'm right there. I think 10 I could hit maybe in the next month. I could do it probably in the next few weeks if I really push.
I think you and Elon are basically the same person, because last time I did a podcast with him, he came in extremely frustrated that he can't beat Uber Lilith as a druid. That was a year ago, I think. Yeah. I forget. Solo. Yeah. And I could just tell there's some percentage of his brain the entire time was thinking I wish I was right now attempting.
Yeah. I think he did it that night.
He did it that night.
Yeah.
He stayed up and did it that night.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me. I mean, it's in a fundamental way, it's really inspiring. And what you're doing is inspiring in that way because, I mean, it's not just about the game. Everything you're doing there has impact. By striving to do well on WebGrid, you're helping everybody figure out how to create the system all along, like the decoding, the software, the hardware, the calibration, all of it, how to make all of that work so you can do everything else really well.
Yeah, it's just really fun.
Well, that's part of the thing is like making it fun.
Yeah, it's addicting. I've joked about like what they actually did when they went in and put this thing in my brain. They must have flipped a switch to make me more susceptible to these kinds of games, to make me addicted to like WebGrid or something.
Yeah.
Do you know Bliss's high score?
Yeah, he said like 14 or something.
17.
Oh boy.
17.1 or something? 17.01?
17 on the dot. 17.01.
Yeah.
He told me he like does it on the floor with peanut butter and he like fasts. It's weird. It sounds like cheating. Sounds like performance enhancing.
Nolan, like the first time Nolan played this game, he asked, how good are we at this game? And I mean, I think you told me right then you're gonna try to beat me.
I'm gonna get there someday.
Yeah,
I think
I fully believe you.
I think I can.
I'm excited for that.
Yeah. So I've been playing first off with the dwell cursor, which really hampers my WebGrid playing ability. Basically, I have to wait 0.3 seconds for every click.
Oh, so you can't do the click. So you have to. So you click by dwelling. Mm-hmm. You said 0.3.
0.3 seconds, which sucks. It really slows down how much I'm able to, like, how high I'm able to get.
Yeah.
I still hit like 50. I think I hit like 50 something net trials per minute in that, which was pretty good. Because I'm able to like. There's one of the settings is also like how slow you need to be moving in order to initiate a click, to start a click. So I can tell sort of when I'm on that threshold to start initiating a click just a bit early. So I'm not fully stopped over the target when I go to click. I'm doing it like on my way to the targets a little to try to time it just right.
Wow. Yeah. So you're slowing down.
Yeah, just a hair right before the targets.
This is like elite performance. Oh, okay, but that's still it sucks that there's a ceiling of the 0.3.
Well, I can get down to 0.2 and 0.1. 0.1's what and I've played with that a little bit too. I have to adjust a ton of different parameters in order to play with 0.1, and I don't have control over all of that on my end yet. It also changes like how the models are trained. Like if I train a model, like in WebGrid, like I bootstrap on a model, which basically is them training models as I'm playing WebGrid based off of like the WebGrid data that I'm. So like if I play WebGrid for 10 minutes, they can train off that data specifically in order to get me a better model. If I do that with 0.3 versus 0.1, the models come out different. The way that they interact, it's just much, much different. So I have to be really careful. I found that doing it with 0.3 is actually better in some ways, unless I can do it with 0.1 and change all of the different parameters. Then that's more ideal because obviously 0.3 is faster than 0.1. So I could get there. I can get there.
Can you click using your brain?
For right now, it's the hover clicking with the dwell cursor. Before all the thread retraction stuff happened, we were calibrating clicks. Left click, right click. That was my previous ceiling before I broke the record again with the dwell cursor was, I think, on a 35 by 35 grid with left and right click. And you get more BPS, more bits per second, using multiple clicks because it's more difficult.
Oh, because what is it? You're supposed to do either a left click or a right click.
Yes,
is it different colors, something like this?
Yeah, blue targets for left click, orange targets for right click is what they had done.
Got it.
So my previous record of 7.5
was with
the blue and the orange targets, yeah. Which I think if I went back to that now, doing the click calibration, I would be able to, and being able to like initiate clicks on my own, I think I would break that 10 ceiling like in a couple days, max. Like,
yeah, you would start making Bliss nervous about his 17.
I mean,
why do you think we haven't given him the?
Yeah,
exactly. So what did it feel like with the retractions? That there is some of the threads retracted.
It sucked. It was really, really hard. The day they told me was the day of my big Neuralink tour at their Fremont facility. And they told me like right before we went over there, it was really hard to hear. My initial reaction was, all right, go in, fix it. Like go in, take it out and fix it. The first surgery was so easy. Like I went to sleep. A couple hours later, I woke up and here we are. I didn't feel any pain, didn't take like any pain pills or anything. So I just knew that if they wanted to, they could go in and put in a new one like next day if that's what it took. Because I wanted it to be better, and I wanted not to lose the capability. I had so much fun playing with it for a few weeks, for a month. I had like it had opened up so many doors for me. It had opened up so many more possibilities that I didn't want to lose it after a month. I thought it would have been a cruel twist of fate if I had gotten to see the view from like the top of this mountain and then have it all come crashing down after a month. And I knew, like, say the top of the mountain, but how I saw it was I was just now starting to climb the mountain, and there was so much more that I knew was possible. And so to have all of that be taken away was really, really hard. But then on the drive over to the facility, I don't know, like 5-minute drive, whatever it is, I talked with my parents about it. I prayed about it. I was just like, I'm not going to let this ruin my day. I'm not going to let this ruin this amazing like tour that they have set up for me. Like, I want to go show everyone how much I appreciate all the work they're doing. I want to go like meet all of the people who have made this possible, and I want to go have one of the best days of my life. And I did, and it was amazing, and it absolutely was one of the best days I've ever been privileged to experience. And then for a few days, I was pretty down in the dumps. But for like the first few days afterwards, I was just like, I didn't know if it was ever going to work again. And then I made the decision that even if I lost the ability to use the Neuralink, even if I lost lost out on everything to come, if I could keep giving them data in any way, then I would do that. If I needed to just do like some of the data collection every day or body mapping every day for a year, then I would do it. Because I know that everything I'm doing helps everyone to come after me. And that's all I wanted. I guess the whole reason that I did this was to help people. And I knew that anything I could do to help, I would continue to do. Even if I never got to use the cursor again, then, I was just happy to be a part of it. And everything that I had done was just a perk. It was something that I got to experience, and I know how amazing it's going to be for everyone to come after me. So might as well just keep trucking along,
Well, that said, you were able to get to work your way up to get the performance back. So this is like going from Rocky 1 to Rocky 2. So when did you first realize that this is possible, and what gave you sort of the strength, the motivation, the determination to do it, to increase back up and beat your previous record?
Yeah, it was within a couple weeks. Like,
Again, this feels like I'm interviewing an athlete. This is great. I like to thank my parents.
The road back was long and hard, fraught with many difficulties. There were dark days. It was a couple weeks, I think, and then there was just a turning point. I think they had switched how they were measuring the neuron spikes in my brain, like the Bliss, help me out.
Yeah, the way in which we were measuring the behavior of individual neurons.
Yeah.
So we're switching from sort of individual spike detection to something called spike band power, which if you watch the previous segments with either me or DJ, you probably have some context.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm. So when they did that, it was kind of like light over the head, like light bulb moment, like, oh, this works. And this seems like we can run with this. And I saw the uptick in performance immediately. Like, I could feel it when they switched over. I was like, this is better. Like, this is good. Like, everything up till this point for the last few weeks, last 3 or 4 weeks, because it was before they even told me, like, everything before this sucked. Like, let's keep doing what we're doing now. And at that point, it was not like, oh, I know I'm still only at like say in WebGrid terms, like 4 or 5 BPS compared to my 7.5 before. But I know that if we keep doing this, then like I can get back there. And then they gave me the dwell cursor, and the dwell cursor sucked at first. It's not obviously not what I want, but it gave me a path forward to be able to continue using it, and hopefully to continue to help out. And so I just ran with it, never looked back. Like I said, I'm just kind of person, I roll with the punches anyway. So
What was the process? What was the feedback loop on the figuring out how to do the spike detection in a way that would actually work well for Nolan?
Yeah, it's a great question. So maybe just to describe first how the actual update worked. It was basically an update to your implant. So we just did an over-the-air software update to his implant, same way you'd update your Tesla or your iPhone. And that firmware change enabled us to record sort of averages of populations of neurons nearby an individual electrode. So we have sort of less resolution about which individual neuron is doing what, but we have a broader picture of what's going on nearby an electrode overall. And that feedback loop, I mean, basically, as Nolan described it, was immediate when we flipped that switch. I think the first day we did that, you hit 3 or 4 BPS right out of the box. And that was a light bulb moment for, okay, this is the right path to go down. And from there, there's a lot of feedback around like how to make this useful for independent use. So what we care about ultimately is that you can use it independently to do whatever you want. And to get to that point, it required us to re-engineer the UX, as you talked about with the dwell cursor, to make it something that you can use independently without us needing to be involved all the time. And yeah, this is obviously the start of this journey still. Hopefully we get back to the places where you're doing multiple clicks and using that to control much more fluidly everything and much more naturally the applications that you're trying to interface with.
And most importantly, get that WebGrid number up.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
So how is on the hover click, do you accidentally click stuff sometimes?
Yep.
Like how hard is it to avoid accidentally clicking?
I have to continuously keep it moving, basically. So like I said, there's a threshold where it will initiate a click. So if I ever drop below that, it'll start, and I have 0.3 seconds to move it before it clicks anything. Okay. And if I don't want it to ever get there, I just keep it moving at a certain speed and like just constantly like doing circles on screen, moving it back and forth to keep it from clicking stuff. I actually noticed a couple weeks back that when I was not using the implant, I was just moving my hand back and forth or in circles, like I was trying to keep the cursor from clicking, and I was just doing it like while I was trying to go to sleep, and I was like, okay, this is a problem.
To avoid the clicking. I guess does that create problems like when you're gaming, accidentally click a thing? Like
Yeah, it happens in chess.
Nice.
I've lost I've lost a number of games because I'll accidentally click something.
I think the first time I ever beat you was because of an
Yeah,
accidental
misclick. Yeah.
It's a nice excuse, right?
Yeah,
You can
it
always,
is.
anytime you
great.
lose, you could just say,
Perfect.
that
Yeah.
was accidental.
Yeah.
You said the app improved a lot from version 1 when you first started using it. It was very different. So can you just talk about the trial and error that you went through with the team? Like 200 plus pages of notes. Like what's that process like of
Yeah.
going back and forth and working together to improve the thing?
It's a lot of me just using it like day in and
Yeah.
day out and saying like, hey, can you guys do this for me? Like, give me this. I want to be able to do that. I need this. I think a lot of it just doesn't occur to them maybe until someone is actually using the app, using the implant. It's just something that they just never would have thought of, or it's very specific to even like me, maybe what I want. It's something I'm a little worried about with the next people that come is, maybe they will want things much different than how I've set it up or what the advice I've given the team. And they're going to look at some of the things they've added for me. I'm like, that's a dumb idea. Like, why would he ask for that? And so I'm really looking forward to get the next people on, because I guarantee that they're going to think of things that I've never thought of. They're going to think of improvements. I'm like, wow, that's a really good idea. Like, I wish I would have thought of that. And then they're also going to give me some pushback about like, yeah, what you are asking them to do here, that's a bad idea. Let's do it this way. And I'm more than happy to have that happen. But it's just a lot of like, different interactions with different games or applications, the internet, just with the computer in general. There's tons of bugs that end up popping up left, right, center. So it's just me trying to use it as much as possible and showing them what works and what doesn't work and what I would like to be better. And then they take that feedback and they usually create amazing things for me. They solve these problems in ways I would have never imagined. They're so good at everything they do. And so I'm just really thankful that I'm able to give them feedback and they can make something of it. Because a lot of my feedback is like really dumb. It's just like, I want this. Please do something about it. And they'll come back and super well thought out. And it's way better than anything I could have ever thought of or implemented myself. So they're just great. They're really, really cool.
As the BCI community grows, would you like to hang out with the other folks with Neuralinks? Like what relationship, if any, would you want to have with them? Because you said like they might have a different set of like ideas of how to use the thing.
Yeah.
Would you be intimidated by their WebGrid performance?
No, I hope
Compete?
day one they like wipe the floor with me. I hope they beat it, and they crush it. Double it if they can. Just because, on one hand, it's only going to push me to be better, because I'm super competitive. I want other people to push me. I think that is important for anyone trying to achieve greatness. Is they need other people around them who are going to push them to be better. And I even made a joke about it on X once. Like, once the next people get chosen, like, cue buddy cop music. Like, I'm just excited to have other people to do this with and to like share experiences with. I'm more than happy to interact with them as much as they want. I'm more than happy to give them advice. I don't know what kind of advice I could give them, but if they have questions, I'm more than happy.
What advice would you have for the next participant in the clinical trial?
That they should have fun with this, because it is a lot of fun, and that I hope they work really, really hard, because it's not just for us, it's for everyone that comes after us. And come to me if they need anything, and to go to Neuralink if they need anything. Man, Neuralink moves mountains. Like, they do absolutely anything for me that they can. And it's an amazing support system to have. It puts my mind at ease, for like so many things that I have had like questions about, or so many things I want to do. And they're always there. And that's really, really nice. And so I would tell them not to be afraid to go to Neuralink with any questions that they have, any concerns, anything that they're looking to do with this, and any help that Neuralink is capable of providing. I know they will. And I don't know, just work your ass off, because it's really important that we try to give our all to this.
So have fun and work hard.
Yeah, there we go. Maybe that's what I'll just start saying to people. Have fun, work hard.
Now you're a real pro athlete. Just keep it short. Maybe it's good to talk about what you've been able to do now that you have a Neuralink implant, like the freedom you gain from this way of interacting with the outside world. Like, you play video games all night, and you do that by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a kind of freedom. Can you speak to that freedom that you gain?
Yeah, it's what all, I don't know, people in my position want. They just want more independence. The more load that I can take away from people around me, the better. If I'm able to interact with the world without using my family, without going through any of my friends, like needing them to help me with things, the better. If I'm able to sit up on my computer all night and not need someone to like sit me up, say like on my iPad, like in a position where I can use it, and then have to have them wait up for me all night until I'm ready to be done using it. Like that, it takes a load off of all of us, and it's really like all I can ask for. It's something that I could never thank Neuralink enough for. I know my family feels the same way. Just being able to have the freedom to do things on my own at any hour of the day or night, it means the world to me. And I don't know.
when you're up at 2 a.m. playing WebGrid by yourself,
Yeah.
I just imagine like it's darkness and there's just a light glowing
Yeah.
and you're just focused. What's going through your mind? Or are you like in a state of flow where it's like the mind is empty, like those like Zen masters?
Yeah. Generally, it is me playing music of some sort. I have a massive playlist, and so I'm just like rocking out to music. And then it's also just like a race against time because I'm constantly looking at how much battery percentage I have left on my implant. Like, all right, I have 30%, which equates to, X amount of time, which means I have to break this record in the next, hour and a half, or else it's not happening tonight.
Yeah.
And so it's a little stressful when that happens. When it's above 50%, I'm like, okay, like I got time. It starts getting down to 30 and then 20. It's like, all right, 10%, a little pop-up's going to pop up right here, and it's going to really screw my WebGrid flow.
Yeah.
It's going to tell me that, like there's the low battery pop-up comes up, and I'm like, it's really going to screw me over. So if I'm going to break this record, I have to do it in the next like 30 seconds, or else that pop-up's going to get in the way, like cover my WebGrid. And then after that, I go click on it, go back into WebGrid, and I'm like, all right, that means I have, 10 minutes left before this thing's dead. That's what's going on in my head, generally, that and whatever song's playing. And I want to break those records so bad. Like, it's all I want when I'm playing WebGrid. It has become less of like, oh, this is just a leisurely activity. Like, I just enjoy doing this because it just feels so nice and it puts me at ease. It is no. Once I'm in WebGrid, you better break this record or you're going to waste like 5 hours of your life right now. And I don't know. It's just fun. It's fun, man.
Have you ever tried WebGrid with like 2 targets and 3 targets? Can you get higher BPS with that?
Can you do that?
You mean like different color targets, or you mean?
Get multiple targets.
Yeah,
Does that change the thing?
Yeah, so BPS is a log of number of targets times correct minus incorrect divided by time. And so you can think of like different clicks as basically doubling the number of active targets.
Got it.
So, you basically higher BPS, the more options there are, the more difficult to task. And there's also like Zen mode you've played in before, which is like infinite canvas.
It covers the whole screen with a grid, and I don't know.
What? Oh, yeah. And so you can go like, that's insane.
Yeah.
He doesn't like it because it didn't show BPS. So like,
Oh yeah.
I had them put in a giant BPS in the background, so now it's like the opposite of Zen mode. It's like super hard mode, like just metal mode. If it's just like a giant number in the back counting.
We should rename that. Metal mode is a much better name now.
So you also play Civilization 6.
I love Civ 6. Yeah.
Usually go with Korea.
I do. Yeah. So the great part about Korea is they focus on like science tech victories, which was not planned. Like I've been playing Korea for years, and then all of the Neuralink stuff happened. So it kind of aligns. But what I've noticed with tech victories is if you can just rush tech, rush science, then you can do anything. Like at one point in the game, you will be so far ahead of everyone technologically that you will have like musketmen, infantrymen, planes sometimes, and people will still be fighting with like bows and arrows. And so if you want to win a domination victory, you just get to a certain point with the science and then go and wipe out the rest of the world. Or you can just take science all the way and win that way, and you're going to be so far ahead of everyone because you're producing so much science that it's not even close. I've accidentally won in different ways just by focusing on science.
Accidentally won by focusing on science.
I was playing only science, obviously, like just science all the way, just tech, and I was trying to get like every tech in the tech tree and stuff, and then I accidentally won through a diplomatic victory, and I was so mad. I was so mad because it just like ends the game one turn. It was like, oh, you won, you're so diplomatic. I'm like, I don't want to do this. I should have declared war on more people or something. It was terrible, but you don't need like giant civilizations with tech, especially with Korea. You can keep it pretty small. So I generally just, get to a certain military unit and put them all around my border to keep everyone out. and then I will just build up. So very isolationist.
Nice.
Yeah.
You just work on the science and the
Yep,
tech.
that's it.
You're making it sound so fun.
It's so much fun.
And I also saw a Civilization 7 trailer.
Oh man, I'm so
Yeah.
pumped.
And that's probably coming out.
Come on, Civ 7, hit me up. I'll alpha, beta test, whatever. That'd be
Wait, well, when is it coming out? It's in
2025.
Next year, yeah. What other stuff would you like to see improved about the Neuralink app and just the entire experience?
I would like to, like I said, get back to the like click on demand, like the regular clicks. That would be great. I would like to be able to connect to more devices. Right now, it's just the computer. I'd like to be able to use it on my phone or use it on different consoles, different platforms. I'd like to be able to control as much stuff as possible, honestly. Like an Optimus robot would be pretty cool. That would be sick if I could control an Optimus robot. The Link app itself, it seems like we are getting pretty dialed in to what it might look like down the road. Seems like we've gotten through a lot of what I want from it, at least. The only other thing I would say is like more control over all the parameters that I can tweak with my like cursor and stuff. There's a lot of things that go into how the cursor moves in certain ways, and I have, I don't know, like 3 or 4 of those parameters, and there
Like
might
gain and friction and all
gain,
that.
friction, yeah, and there's maybe double the amount of those with just like velocity and then with the actual dwell cursor. So I would like all of it. I want as much control over my environment as possible.
So
Especially
you want like advanced mode, like in like there's menus usually there's basic
Yep.
mode, and you're like one of those folks like
I go
the
into
power
everything.
user, advanced.
Yeah. That's
Got it.
that's what I want. I want as much control over this as possible. So yeah, that's really all I can ask for. Just give me everything.
Has speech been useful? Like just being able to talk also in addition to everything else?
Yeah, you mean like while I'm using it?
While you're using it, like speech to text?
Oh yeah.
Or do you
yeah.
type, or like, because there's also a keyboard? That's
Yeah,
really
yeah.
nice.
So there's a virtual keyboard. That's another thing I would like to work more on, is finding some way to type or text in a different way. Right now it is like a dictation basically and a virtual keyboard that I can use with the cursor. But we've played around with like finger spelling, like sign language finger spelling, and that seems really promising. So I have this thought in my head that it's going to be a very similar learning curve that I had with the cursor, where I went from attempted movement to imagined movement at one point. I have a feeling, this is just my intuition, that at some point I'm going to be doing finger spelling and I won't need to actually attempt to fingerspell anymore, that I'll just be able to think the like letter that I want and it'll pop up.
That would be epic.
Yeah, and
that's
not just-
challenging.
yeah,
though. That's hard. That's a lot of work for you to kind of take that leap, but that would be awesome.
And then like going from letters to words is another step. Like you would go from, right now it's finger spelling of like just the sign language alphabet, but if it's able to pick that up, then it should be able to pick up like the whole sign language, like language. And so then if I could do something along those lines, or just the sign language spelled word, if I can, spell it at a reasonable speed and it can pick that up, then I would just be able to think that through and it would do the same thing. I don't see why not. After what I saw with the cursor control, I don't see why it wouldn't work, but we'd have to play around with it more.
What was the process in terms of like training yourself to go from attempted movement to imagined movement?
Yeah.
How long did that take? So like how long would this kind of process take?
Well, it was a couple weeks before it just like happened upon me. But now that I know that that was possible, I think I could make it happen with other things. I think it would be much, much simpler.
Would you get an upgraded implant device?
Sure. Absolutely. Whenever they'll let me.
So you don't have any concerns for you with the surgery experience? All of it was like no regrets.
No.
So everything's been good so far.
Yep.
You just keep getting upgrades.
Yeah. I mean, why not? I've seen how much it's impacted my life already. And I know that everything from here on out is just going to get better and better. So I would love to. I would love to get the upgrade.
What future capabilities are you excited about, sort of beyond this kind of telepathy? Is vision interesting? So for folks who, for example, who are blind, so Neuralink enabling people to see, or for speech.
Yeah, there's a lot that's very, very cool about this. I mean, we're talking about the brain, so there's like this is just motor cortex stuff. There's so much more that can be done. The vision one is fascinating to me. I think that is going to be very, very cool. To give someone the ability to see for the first time in their life would just be, I mean, it might be more amazing than even helping someone like me. Like that just sounds incredible. The speech thing is really interesting. Being able to have some sort of like real time translation and cut away that language barrier would be really cool. Any sort of like actual impairments that it could solve, like with speech, would be very, very cool. And then also there are a lot of different disabilities that all originate in the brain. And you would be able to hopefully be able to solve a lot of those. I know there's already stuff to help people with seizures that can be implanted in the brain. This would do, I imagine, the same thing. And so you could do something like that. I know that, you know, even someone like Joe Rogan has talked about the possibilities with being able to stimulate the brain in different ways. I'm not sure what, you know, like how ethical a lot of that would be. That's beyond me, honestly. But I know that there is a lot that can be done when we're talking about the brain and being able to go in and physically make changes to help people or to improve their lives. So I'm really looking forward to everything that comes from this. And I don't think it's all that far off. I think a lot of this can be implemented within my lifetime, assuming that I live a long life.
What you're referring to is things like people suffering from depression or things of that nature potentially getting help.
Yeah. Flip a switch like that, make someone happy. I think Joe has talked about it more in terms of like, you want to experience like what a drug trip feels like. Like you want to experience what it'd be like to be on,
of course.
Mushrooms or something like that, DMT. Like you can just flip that switch in the brain.
Yeah.
My buddy Bane has talked about being able to like wipe parts of your memory and re-experience things that, like for the first time, like your favorite movie or your favorite book, like just wipe that out real quick and then re-fall in love with Harry Potter or something. I told him, I was like, I don't know how I feel about like people being able to just wipe parts of your memory. That seems a little sketchy to me. He's like, they're already doing it. So
sounds legit.
yeah.
I would love memory replay. Just like actually like high resolution replay of old memories.
Yeah. I saw an episode of Black Mirror about that once. I don't think I want it.
Yeah, so Black Mirror always kind of considers the worst case, which is important. I think people don't consider the best case or the average case enough. I don't know what it is about us humans. We want to think about the worst possible thing.
Yeah.
We love drama.
Yeah.
It's like, how is this new technology going to kill everybody? We just love that.
Well,
We get like, yes, let's watch.
Hopefully people don't think about that too much with me. It'll ruin a lot of my plans.
Yeah, I assume you're gonna have to take over
Yeah.
the world. I mean, I love your Twitter. You tweeted, I'd like to make jokes about hearing voices in my head since getting the Neuralink, but I feel like people would take it the wrong way. Plus, the voices in my head told me not to.
Yeah.
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 Please never stop. So you were talking about Optimus. Is that something you would love to be able to do to control the robotic arm or the entirety of Optimus?
Oh yeah, for sure. For sure. Absolutely.
You think there's something like fundamentally different about just being able to physically interact with the world?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I know another thing with like being able to like give people the ability to like feel sensation and stuff too by going in with the brain and having the Neuralink maybe do that. That could be something that could be transferred through the Optimus as well. Like there's all sorts of really cool interplay between that. And then also, like you said, just physically interacting. I mean, 99% of the things that I can't do myself, obviously I need a caretaker for, someone to physically do things for me. If an Optimus robot could do that, like I could live an incredibly independent life and not be such a burden on those around me. And it would change the way people like me live, at least until whatever this is gets cured. But being able to interact with the world physically like that would just be amazing. And they're not just like for having it be a caretaker or something, but something like I talked about, just being able to read a book. Imagine an Optimus robot just being able to hold a book open in front of me, like get that smell again. I might not be able to feel it at that point, or maybe I could again with the sensation and stuff. But there's something different about reading like a physical book than staring at a screen or listening to an audiobook. I actually don't like audiobooks. I've listened to a ton of them at this point, but I don't really like them. I would much rather like read a physical copy.
So one of the things you would love to be able to experience is opening the book, bringing it up to you,
Yeah.
and to feel the touch of the paper.
Yeah. Oh man, the touch, the smell. I mean, it's just something about the words on the page, and they've replicated that page color on like the Kindle and stuff. Yeah, it's just not the same. Yeah. So just something as simple as that.
So one of the things you miss is touch.
I do. Yeah. A lot of things that I interact with in the world, like clothes or literally any physical thing that I interact with in the world, a lot of times what people around me will do is they'll just come like rub it on my face. They'll like lay something on me so I can feel the weight. They will rub, a shirt on me so I can feel fabric. Like there's something very profound about touch, and it's something that I miss a lot, and something I would love to do again. We'll see.
What would be the first thing you do with a hand that can touch? Give your mom a hug after that, right?
Yeah, I know. It's one thing that I've asked like God for basically every day since my accident, was just being able to like one day move, even if it was only like my hand, so that way like I could squeeze my mom's hand or something, just to like show her that like how much I care and how much I love her and everything. Something along those lines, being able to just interact with the people around me, handshake, give someone a hug. I don't know, anything like that. Being able to help me eat, like I'd probably get really fat, which would be a terrible, terrible thing.
Also beat Bliss in chess on a physical chessboard.
Yeah. I mean, there are just so many upsides, And any way to find some way to feel like I'm bringing Bliss down to my level.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
he's just such an amazing guy, and everything about him is just so above and beyond, that anything I can do to take him down a notch, I'm more than happy.
Yeah. Humble him a bit. He needs it.
Yeah.
Okay. As he's sitting next to me. Did you ever make sense of why God puts good people through such hardship?
Oh man. I think it's all about understanding how much we need God. And I don't think that there's any light without the dark. I think that if all of us were happy all the time, there would be, no reason to turn to God ever. I feel like there would be no concept of, good or bad. And I think that as much of like the darkness and the evil that's in the world, it makes us all appreciate the good and the things we have so much more. And I think, like when I had my accident, one of the first things I said to one of my best friends was, and this was within like the first month or two after my accident, I said, everything about this accident has just made me understand and believe that like God is real and that there really is a God, basically, and that like my interactions with him have all been, real and worthwhile. And he said, if anything, seeing me go through this accident, he believes that there isn't a God. And it's a very different reaction. But I believe that it is a way for God to test us, to build our character, to send us through trials and tribulations, to make sure that we understand how precious, he is and the things that he's given us and the time that he's given us, and then to hopefully grow from all of that. I think that's a huge part of being here, is to not just have an easy life and do everything that's easy, but to step out of our comfort zones and really challenge ourselves, because I think that's how we grow.
What gives you hope about this whole thing we have going on? Human civilization.
Oh, man. I think people are my biggest inspiration. Even just being at Neuralink for a few months, looking people in the eyes and hearing their motivations for why they're doing this, it's so inspiring. And I know that they could be other places, at cushier jobs, working somewhere else, doing X, Y, or Z that doesn't really mean that much. But instead they're here and they want to better humanity, and they want to better just the people around them, the people that they've interacted with in their life. They want to make better lives for their own family members who might have disabilities, or they look at someone like me and they say, I can do something about that, so I'm going to. And it's always been what I've connected with most in the world are people. I've always been a people person, and I love learning about people, and I love learning like how people developed and where they came from, and to see like how much people are willing to do for someone like me when they don't have to, and they're going out of their way to make my life better. It gives me a lot of hope for just humanity in general, how much we care and how much we're capable of when we all kind of get together and try to make a difference. And I know there's a lot of bad out there in the world, but there always has been and there always will be. And I think it shows human resiliency, and it shows what we're able to endure, and how much we just want to be there and help each other, and how much satisfaction we get from that. Because I think that's one of the reasons that we're here, is just to help each other. And I don't know, that always gives me hope, is just realizing that there are people out there who still care and who want to help.
And thank you for being one such human being, and continuing to be a great human being through everything you've been through, and being an inspiration to many people, to myself, for many reasons, including your epic, unbelievably great performance on WebGrid. I will be training all night tonight to try to catch up.
You can do it.
And I believe in you that you can, once you come back, so sorry to interrupt with the Austin trip, once you come back, eventually beat Bliss.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I'm rooting for you. The whole
man.
world is rooting for you.
Thank
you for everything you've done, man.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for listening to this conversation with Nolan Arbaugh, and before that with Elon Musk, DJ Saw, Matthew McDougall, and Bliss Chapman. To support this podcast, please check out our sponsors in the description. And now, let me leave you with some words from Aldous Huxley in The Doors of Perception. We live together. We act on and react to one another. But always, and in all circumstances, we are by ourselves. The martyrs go hand in hand into the arena. They are crucified alone. Embraced, the lovers desperately try to fuse their insulated ecstasies into a single self-transcendence, in vain. But its very nature, every embodied spirit is doomed to suffer and enjoy its solitude. Sensations, feelings, insights, fancies, all these are private, and except through symbols and at second hand, incommunicable. We can pool information about experiences, but never the experiences themselves. From family to nation, every human group is a society of island universes. Thank you for listening, and hope to see you next time.
Wow. Là 11 phút, nhưng mình cũng xem cũng hơi mất tập trung, bởi vì thực ra nó hơi dài. Thì bây giờ mình sẽ xem tiếp một cái này mình không nói, mình add vào này. Em xem cái này đi. Rồi sau mình có thể mình xem cái này. The Crazy Engineer of Venice.
The year is 452. The Roman Empire is on the brink of collapse, and the Huns have just launched their attack on northern Italy. Several cities are completely destroyed, forcing the locals to go on the run. They head for a lagoon just off the coast and take refuge on several small islands, a decision that would no doubt save their lives. Against all odds, this small civilization eventually went on to build one of the most impressive feats of engineering the world has ever seen, Venice. Despite having no roads, no land, and no fresh water, the Venetians managed. The year is 452. The Roman Empire is on the brink of collapse, and the Huns have just launched their attack on northern Italy. Several cities are completely destroyed, forcing the locals to go on the run. They head for a lagoon just off the coast and take refuge on several small islands, a decision that would no doubt save their lives. Against all odds, this small civilization eventually went on to build one of the most impressive feats of engineering the world has ever seen, Venice. Despite having no roads, no land, and no fresh water, the Venetians managed to turn a muddy swamp into the most powerful and wealthiest city of its time. This unique layout of canals and bridges woven through hundreds of islands made Venice incredibly accessible, and it became the epicenter of all business. We modeled the entire thing.
Năm sau, năm nay mình định đi rồi nhưng mà năm nay chưa đi được. Là mình định đi châu Âu. Đi châu Âu chắc chắn là mình đi Rome rồi. Nhưng mà có cái clip này thì mình đang Venice là thành phố ở đâu? Ủa xa thế. Rome là tít đây mà. Nhưng mà bởi vì mình định đi Áo á. Áo thì mình đi sang Venice được nhỉ? Mình không quan tâm đến Milan. Milan kinh đô thời trang gì đấy mình không quan tâm lắm. Zagreb là cái gì? Thì từ đây cho đến Áo là cái gì nhỉ? Thủ đô của Áo là thủ đô của Croatia là gì? Hả? Nước Áo không phải Austria ở Austria cách Ý bao xa? Ôi xa lắm. 500 cây thì cũng ít. Rồi mình đi tàu à? Đi bus ở đấy có cái khả năng không có đúng không? Nhưng mà đi ở đến đây rồi từ đây đi đến Rome thì đi là bằng cái gì? Cũng 500 cây nữa. Rồi xem tiếp đi. Tính sao vậy?
To show you what's going on beneath the surface and how its clever design and medieval engineering allowed it to take over the world. When the first refugees arrived to start their new lives on the islands, they had the worst possible surface to build on. The small marshy islands were made of an incredibly soft clay, which would barely hold the weight of a human, let alone an entire city. To create stable foundations for buildings, the Venetians collected large timber piles from the forests of Croatia and started hammering them into the ground. They drove them about 5 meters deep until they reached a much harder layer of clay. Not only did this stabilize the piles, but by packing them really close together, it compressed the surrounding clay, pushing out the water and making it much stronger. Once the piles were firmly in the ground, the tops were cut off and wooden planks were laid on top to spread the load. Special blocks of Istrian stone were then placed to raise the foundations above the water. This design was a stroke of genius, as the wooden piles were sealed away from the air, making it impossible for them to rot. To this day, almost all of the air
Cọc gỗ được bịt kín khỏi không khí, không thể bị mục mà, nhưng mà dưới nước mà.
making it impossible for them to rot. To this day, almost
Ghê vậy. Một nghìn 500 năm.
all of the original pile
Bôi. Bôi gọi là bôi cái gì, bùn xung quanh những cái trụ đó.
are in great condition and are still holding up the city. Once the foundation had been properly laid down, the buildings themselves were built. Venetians started off using wood for their houses, but after numerous fires, they switched to brick. To keep the buildings as lightweight as possible, they had to be no more than 3 stories high. Lime mortar had to be used instead of cement because it was flexible and would allow the entire lime mortar had to be used instead.
Vữa vôi thay cho xi măng. Vữa vôi cũng là một phần xi măng mà.
Of cement because it was flexible and would allow the entire building to flex as the ground beneath slowly moved. The inner walls were built in a crisscross pattern that would also flex like a trellis. The facade walls, which had large windows and elegant stone designs, made them much heavier, and so in order to stop them from falling over, they were pinned into the floor using iron rods, keeping the entire building together. This method of building worked well for the Venetians, and soon several islands around the lagoon were established in this way. Instead of expanding outwards like most cities, these islands expanded into each other. At first, boats were the only way to cross between the islands, but eventually the islands grew closer together, and many could be crossed by simply wading through the shallow water on a horse. The next step in Venice's evolution would of course be connecting the islands. Surprisingly, there were no bridges for the first 500 years of Venice's existence. But as the population increased and business started to ramp up, there needed to be an easier way to reach Rialto, the financial center of Venice. And so, the Doge of Venice set up a prize for the engineer that could design the best bridge. He announced this by putting up displate posters all around the city. Just kidding. Displate, today's sponsor, makes awesome metal posters that can be easy with their toolers with selves. 4 to 5 primal violins use code primal space. In order to turn Venice from a collection of islands into a bustling city, bridges had to be built. The first attempt was a simple pontoon bridge that joined the 2 largest sections of Venice together and, crucially, provided quick access to the Rialto area. The bridge was later upgraded to a wooden bridge, which eventually burned down and collapsed before it was finally replaced by a much stronger stone bridge. To build it, over 12,000 timber piles were driven into the banks of the canal, and 10,000 tons of stone were built on top to form the bridge. To this day, the bridge still stands, and it serves as the main artery in the center of Venice. After this, stone bridges started to pop up everywhere, turning Venice into a compact city made up entirely of canals instead of roads. This gave Venice a unique advantage, since the canals allowed goods and traffic to flow quickly through every part of the city. The messy overlap of pedestrians and horse-drawn traffic didn't exist in Venice, since the walkways and canals were completely separated. Yet people could transition between the two effortlessly without slowing down. By now, the city had become the most powerful and richest city in Europe. Everything being bought and sold went through Venice, and the Venetians were making enormous amounts of money. But as business increased, so did the population, and the demand for fresh water was out of control. Despite being surrounded by water, Venice couldn't use any of it, since it was extremely salty and undrinkable. Without natural springs or rivers to collect fresh water, Venice relied upon boats to deliver water from the mainland. But with 170,000 people, the demand became too much, and
mình biết là Venice thì có mấy cái đường sông rồi, nhưng mà mình không nghĩ là nó khủng khiếp như này. Nhiều cảm giác mà tưởng tượng mà bây giờ được chạy bộ ở đấy 10-20 cây nhỉ. Phê vai.
Venetian engineers had to get creative. From the beginning, Venetian islands were built around squares, which were initially just empty fields for animals to graze upon. The idea was to use these squares to collect rainwater. They started by digging out large areas under the entire square and lining the walls with a thick layer of clay to make it waterproof. The space was then filled in with sand and stones, and the surface was redone with tiles that would lead the water towards each corner of the square. From here, rainwater would flow into the basin and gradually filter through the sand and stones until it reached the main well at the center of the square. To maximize the surface area for water collection, the roofs of the nearby buildings were fitted with gutters that would direct the water onto the square and into the drains. Venice then became an enormous funnel, which filled more than 600 wells around the city. The Venetians had once again engineered a masterpiece to save its city. But there was still one huge problem: waste. Until this point, people threw all of their waste out of the window, some of it landing in the canal. But for those who didn't live within throwing distance of a canal, urine, feces, and rotten food all ended up in the streets. And so, in the 16th century, the Venetians started building a network of underground tunnels that would collect the waste from every building and flush it into the canal. When the tide of the lagoon was down, solid waste would collect at the bottom and the liquids would naturally flow into the canals. Then, when the tide rose, it would flood the tunnels and pull the solid waste into the canal. The motion of the tide coming in and out twice a day would exchange the dirty water for fresh water from the sea, flushing Venice from all of its waste. The extremely salty water worked as a strong disinfectant, and thanks to this system, the streets became clean. Amazingly, almost all of the incredible engineering that made Venice is still around today. The bridges, the canals, the buildings are all ancient relics sitting on a forest that has held up
Nhưng mà ở đây chắc đắt lắm nhỉ?
The entire city for over 1,000 years. And now, time for the Primal Space giveaway. The winner of the previous giveaway is Leon. Congrats. In the next video, to do out Venice. Thank you very much.
Hấp dẫn đấy nhỉ? Nghe muốn đi luôn ạ. Subscribe kênh này đến Primal Space Ban Sơ. Kênh này nhiều thứ để xem này. Rồi, còn gì không ta? Bây giờ là hơn 1 tiếng rồi. Chắc là mình sẽ đi xem cái này đi. Cái này hôm nọ. Hôm nọ mình định xem nhưng mà mình xem được một ít rồi thấy thú vị quá, nên là mình lại bookmark lại.
September 18th, 2022, a teenager has managed to infiltrate the internal chat systems of one of the gaming industry's most secretive companies. With just simple tech to his belongings and adept social engineering skills, he was able to leak a substantial amount of early development footage of the most highly anticipated game, a breach that caused Rockstar $5 million in damages and forced a widespread lockdown at their offices and infrastructure. How was a single kid able to breach their systems so effortlessly? And most importantly, why does it seem like Rockstar goes to such lengths and efforts to keep all their work and plans a secret, even if it means resorting to sending private investigators?
GTA 6 mười mấy năm trời rồi. Mình còn nhớ là hồi mình chơi GTA 5 là cỡ năm 2000 mấy GTA 5 release date là 23 nhưng mà thế thì là nó là GTA San Andreas, GTA San release date 2004 này.
To this day, Rockstar Games operates through 10 active studios around the globe outside their main headquarters in New York. Each studio contributes to Rockstar's next major projects, so does the HQ mainly consist of writers, a creative team, and a publishing department. The most secure part of the office, protected by 3 layers of security, is where the top executives reside, including the president of Rockstar and his brother, the former head writer, who resigned in 2020. Both avoid the media, have no social media profiles, and rarely make a public appearance. Then there's Sam Hauser, the elusive mastermind about who little is known. They persistently avoid becoming something they despise: famous figures. Connected to their headquarters are the 2 performance capture studios, one in Los Angeles, which is their newest studio, and one in an undisclosed location on Long Island, not far from the HQ. It's here that actors, including the rumored GTA 6 protagonists Lucia and Jason, will do their motion capture and voice acting before sending it out to the other studios, primarily Rockstar North, also known as the birthplace of GTA. This building is where the main game development takes place. Think of animations and map making, while graphics and their in-house Rage game engine development take place in their office in San Diego, also the birthplace of Red Dead Redemption, the canceled Agent game, and the start of several mismanagement cases. Mismanagement also happened at Lincoln, the studio responsible for translations and quality assurance. There was a time when game testers here were not allowed to have phones at their workspace and open blinds at night because a tester once spotted a drone spying on them. Furthermore, there are Rockstar leads, New England and Toronto, which 4 years ago was robbed for more than $50,000 worth of newly delivered equipment, with no intent of leaking or knowing it was Rockstar. More recently, there's Rockstar Dundee, that developed the scrapped Cops and Crooks DLC. Additionally, Rockstar acquired 5M, which operates without a dedicated studio. Instead, its team works remotely, with another part based at the studio in London, where most marketing and international communications are managed. Lastly, one of Rockstar's largest studios, located in India with nearly 1,000 employees, focusing primarily on art and design. Rumors suggest that it was here that the GTA 6 hacker accessed Rockstar's internal messages by deceiving an employee with social engineering tactics to gain access to a Slack account. The hacker, Aryan Kurtaj, was part of a larger online hacking group called Lapsus, although he carried out the GTA 6 hack independently. Days prior to targeting Rockstar, Aryan hacked other major tech companies, including Uber and Nvidia, using similar methods. By tricking one of the 1,000 employees into granting access to the internal communication services, he was able to read and download private chats, including the 90 development clips that were eventually published on the GTA forums. GTA 6 is still a long way ahead from being played. In the meantime, you can try out today's sponsor, War Thunder, the experience you play. Exclusive vehicle decorator Eagle Event. This is Rockstar's biggest leak and arguably the largest in the gaming industry. Authorities eventually identified Aryan, who was 1 year later sentenced in the UK to indefinite confinement in a hospital prison. Rockstar informed the court that this incident cost the company thousands of staff hours and $5 million to recover from, as GTA 6 was placed on lockdown and extensive measures were to recover from, as GTA.
Like a lot happened behind the scene at Rockstar Game. The game obviously went into full lockout mode, but they also changed character names, drastically changed who they are, and recast various roles.
GTA 6 was placed on lockdown and extensive measures were implemented to prevent such incidents in the future. However, despite these efforts, more leaks occurred. Days before the trailer release, a clip surfaced on TikTok showing a city from GTA 6, reportedly leaked by someone close to Aaron Garbett, the head of art. This incident was likely facilitated by the pandemic's work-from-home policy. Later, the trailer leak occurred, and months after, Rockstar mandated that all employees must return to the office for productivity and security reasons. Although the leaked trailer was beyond Rockstar's control, someone managed to access a YouTube admin panel, allowing them to view and leak the trailer in advance. It's an issue that YouTube has since been investigating. Unfortunately, leaks are bound to happen, especially for such a large company. Historically, Rockstar has always taken extensive measures to minimize these incidents. A co-founder described Rockstar's handling at the level of the CIA and FBI.
we were militant, both internally and then we would just be listening and watching online. And we were very, very sensitive to even the discs going to the Sony manufacturing plant to get replicated. I would drive the submission disc to the airport. We'd hand courier them overnight, right, to California to get them tested. And then we would be paying attention, and then we would be all over it immediately. Within 2 hours, someone's on their door and game over.
All workers, actors, and press at Rockstar are required to sign non-disclosure agreements, also known as NDAs, prohibiting them from sharing any sensitive and confidential material. With that, actors are forbidden to post anything on social media that even might suggest they work for Rockstar or even follow each other. After fans figured out that the sequel to Red Dead Redemption was in the works by observing new mutual connections, actor Roger Clark remarked that Rockstar's NDAs are stricter than those for top actors in Marvel movies. Even a visit to the bathroom required an escort, and actors often didn't realize they were working for Rockstar due to code-named projects and lack of insight.
When I realized that I was working for Rockstar, I was brought up to a floor and saw the logo, and my jaw hit the ground, because when I auditioned for it, it was so under wraps. It had a fake name. The NDAs were so thorough that I just err on the side of caution. I definitely didn't know it was a video game. I had no idea.
This strict policy led to some frustration, as actors couldn't read their entire scripts to get fully immersed in the story. Smaller actors sometimes inadvertently breached the NDA by listing a Rockstar project on their resume, sparking early rumors about games like GTA 6, as one actor was seen in a motion capture suit with the game name on his resume, and even responding to questions related to it, but later removed the references and disappeared. It's clear that Rockstar takes stringent measures to prevent leaks. Those who do, or play with their intellectual property, face severe legal consequences overseen by their parent company, Take-Two Interactive. So did they once sue a review site for $1 million, temporarily made single-player modding illegal, kindly asked a leaker to stop sharing content, and even raided a home after a teenager obtained a PS3 dev console with beta content. While cases involving 5M and other multiplayer mods didn't result in leaks, they demonstrated Take-Two's willingness to take legal action. With 5M, they initially sought to halt development, citing concerns over piracy, and sent private investigators to discuss ceasing operations.
Mình thấy con muỗi rồi, đốt mình từ đấy giờ mấy lần rồi mà mình nhìn không thấy nó bay. Bằng một cái thần kỳ mà nó đốt mình liên tục luôn mà mình nhìn không phải thấy nó đâu cả, trừ khi đến lúc nó béo quá rồi, nó không thể bay được và mình có thể tìm được.
Eventually, Take-Two's stance softened and a lawsuit was prevented, later acquiring the 5M team. During that period, Rockstar became increasingly closed off as it grew larger. They removed the option to comment on their newswires, quit Q&A sessions, discontinued popular community live streams, and stopped attending conferences. Sam Houser once famously described E3 as a big sort of willy-waving exercise, explaining their departure from such events. This decision isn't surprising today, as Rockstar no longer needs third-party exposure. A simple tweet can already garner all the attention they desire. There was also a time when Rockstar was working on a documentary about the development of GTA 5 and planned to release 3 books on the company's history and evolution. However, both projects were ultimately cancelled for reasons that remain unknown. Nowadays, the closest you can get is watching them occasionally give educational presentations. The few posts about GTA 6 exemplify Rockstar's profound influence in the entertainment industry. Despite their near total silence towards the public, they consistently break world records. Perhaps their minimal communication strategy and scarcity of new information are deliberate marketing tactics to prevent brand burnout. You can imagine that if GTA 6 had been announced years earlier, interest might have waned. This approach could be a blessing in disguise for Rockstar. It's how they famously denied ever working on the single-player DLC for GTA 5, despite previous announcements and ex-workers confirming their existence, including details found in the leaked source code. Many people don't label Rockstar as secretive just because they refrain from frequent updates, but more due to their vagueness and reveals and limited insights into their development processes. Their commitment to secrecy is arguably an effective way to manage hype and ensure maximum impact upon release. The company's top executives maintain a low public profile, preferring to be defined by their products rather than their personalities. This spirit is reflected in their BAFTA awards, where Rockstar Games is listed without individual names, as the founders refused personal recognition unless it was awarded to the company as a whole. While other companies frequently showcase and share their work, Rockstar intentionally distances itself from such practices because, ultimately, no one can complain about the game development if they don't have any insight into it. At the end, the games they make speak for themselves. As Dan Houser once said, "I think you gain something by not showing how they're made. As much as we might lose something in terms of people's respect for what we do, their enjoyment of what we do is enhanced, which is probably more important." Thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. You can play the game.
Rockstar Game Lead GTA mắc pay GTA 4 GTA 4 Red Dead Redemption 2 8 năm Manhunt. Mấy cái này mình không biết này, hai cái này mình có nghe này. Mắc pay 202 à? Mắc pay này mình nghe quen lắm. Không quen lắm, nhìn hình không quen lắm. Mắc pay đi. Thôi. Này like đến đây thôi. Quên, ăn nhầm. Hôm nay like đến đây thôi. Hẹn gặp lại vào thứ sáu. Thứ sáu thì mình sẽ xem cái gì ta? Có thể mình sẽ xem podcast của cái gì? Thằng đọc tên là gì à? Một cái comedian Matt Rife. Yep, Matt Rife. Bye bye.